Welcome to A Talk with Armani.
I am your host, Armani Iman.
This is the show that takes you behind the scenes and in front of the screen of all different types of productions. Whether it's a feature film, a brand new TV show, or writing a book, I introduce you to those powerhouses that make those productions work. Make sure you stay tuned as I bring to you my first guest. Welcome back to A Talk with Armani. So it is not every day that I am joined by such a young talent, a talent that is able to express his words in spoken word and poetry and isn't afraid to do it. Please help me welcome Mr. Royce Mann. Hi. So it is wonderful to have you.
It is great to be here. Thank you.
So tell me, how did you start first?
Well, I've always been into writing, just writing little poems since I was little, and I've also been very, I guess, socially conscious about issues happening around the world because of my family, who's always encouraged that, and whether it was taking me to protests when I was 5, 6 years old, or going to President Obama's inauguration in 2008 and getting to see that. I've always been very into writing and performing, and then also that aspect of issues around the world and issues that are relevant. And so but what I guess really got me into spoken word was actually about 2 years ago. My school, we have a competition every year, a spoken word competition. And so I wrote a poem called White Boy Privilege for that. And I won the competition. And
wow! Congratulations!
Thank you. And then the poem got posted online, the video, and then it blew up, and it's just haven't looked back from there.
Wow! So you said that you're in school, and you said when you were little. So how old are you now?
I'm 16.
So wow! So that's a good accomplishment. So you're 16 years old, and you've been doing this for how long now?
Spoken word, only about a year and a half, 2 years.
But you've been writing for, oh my gracious.
As long as I can remember. I mean, it was never very good until the last few years, and even that's debatable. But but I was writing little plays when I was 4 or 5 years old, writing poetry, trying to write film scripts, all that.
Okay, all righty. So when you first started doing poetry, when you first started doing poetry and you started putting it down, you said you were very young, maybe 5 or 6 years old. Have you gone back in your book to look at some of those older poems and said, hey, let me try to maybe make this good?
I don't know if that's possible, looking at some of them, to be honest. I think they served their purpose, which is learning from that and really getting those creative muscles working at a young age.
Absolutely.
And so I think I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for writing back then, but I don't think those pieces are anything that I'd really want to share with other people at this point.
Understandable. You don't want nobody to know how you felt when you had your little bottle and your pamper and all that. Absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're watching A Talk with Armani. So if you just joined me, I am sitting here with the very inspiring and youthful poet and spoken word artist, Mr. Royce Mann. So you have been doing this since you were, before you can remember. You've been doing some poems. They probably started out, I got my cat, now I have my hat, something like that. And now you've gotten a little bit deeper. You mentioned earlier that you've become more socially conscious, that you've seen some things, and you actually won an award with one of your poems.
So it was a poem called White Boy Privilege, and it was a product of a lot of thought that had been going through my mind that whole year in school. That came from this class that we took called Race, Class, and Gender. And so it it's this class that looks at a lot of different topics, but one of those is privilege and the idea of white privilege and the idea of male privilege. And so learning about that and seeing how that affects my life as a young white boy, it inspired me to write about that, trying to take a really honest approach at it, because I feel like a lot of people will sometimes they'll talk about their privilege and say a lot of great things, like say I'm really trying to like make the world an equal place, but maybe their actions don't always speak to that.
Absolutely.
And so I wanted to take a very honest approach and say that as someone who's privileged, I love the privileges that I have, but I don't see why they can't be enjoyed by everyone. And it's going to take a lot of work from everyone, but I wanted to approach it from that angle, and sort of ask the question, why can't these privileges I have, why can't they be rights instead?
Okay, well that makes absolute sense. So basically, and that comes from being at a point of social consciousness. Okay, we're gonna look at me. There we go. Let's look up. You know, they're like, okay, I can hear them, but I can't see them. Yeah, that's your camera. Okay, in case you need to know. But yeah, that comes from being socially conscious. And we are living in a society today where I think we all have to lend a hand. We all have to kind of put on the glasses where color isn't always seen. And we just get in and help each other. Privilege, I think, is an interpretation to me. You know, I mean, something that I might find as a privilege, the next person may not. You know, and like you said, some of the things that people call privileges should not be titled privileges, but they should be rights. You know, I think that being able to go into the workplace and have an equal opportunity at a job, regardless of what sex or color you are, should not be a privilege. That should be a right. And it's amazing to me, we were talking about it a little bit ago on a show, where there is different classes, and you want to call them of endangered people, and it's not always the people that you think that they are. You know, one of, I think, our endangered classes of people are white males between the age of 28 and 35, where they where society feels as though they should be working, they have jobs, or they should have their own way of right. They should already be well on their path, but a lot of them are not. And it may be because of anything. They might have come home from the service and they aren't enjoying the benefits that they thought that they were. They might have gotten out of school early. They also could be a product of a broken home and just haven't found their path. But when society views them, they just automatically assume that they're in a privileged class, wherein a lot of times they are not. So I think it's definitely important to bring awareness to those different classes. And sometimes by spoken word and poetry, we can touch people that aren't otherwise enlightened by politics. You know, some people don't watch the news. I'm one of those people that don't watch the news. But, you know, there may be a story that I read that will enlighten me to think, wow, that's something that's thought-provoking, and maybe I need to take more of a look at this particular issue. Do you feel as though your spoken word and your poetry does that it shines a light on maybe some topics that aren't necessarily given the platform they deserve?
I hope so, but I think it's also important to recognize that I think when it comes to topics of privilege and race, it's not as much that they aren't being talked about enough. It's that, in my opinion, they aren't being listened to enough.
Okay,
and
absolutely.
So I hope that I can do that with my poetry. I think my goal is to just provide sort of another viewpoint. The unique viewpoint that I have as somebody who I feel as though I enjoy a lot of types of privilege, not just white privilege, not just male privilege, but also socioeconomic privilege. I live in a middle-class home and have had the resources that I need to have a good education. I go to a private school, I'm on financial aid, but I have enough money to even pay for it with that financial aid.
Right, absolutely.
And so sort of providing that viewpoint, I think for the discussion to really be had in a valuable way, you need to have all different viewpoints coming together, and to really educate people, it's sort of a mix of all those viewpoints, and also a mix of adding your own viewpoint and then stepping back and listening to others.
Absolutely, absolutely, because there's so many different facets to this. You know, there's so many different pieces to this huge puzzle that is our world.
Yeah.
You know, and by getting different voices in and different people's opinions and different takes, and realizing that opinion is just that. You know, it's an opinion that sometimes people can grow from, but if you don't grow from it, if you got something else going on, then it's unnecessary. You don't have to keep it. Don't make it personal. Just keep it moving. You know what I mean? But thank you so much for coming on. And we actually have a video of you doing spoken word, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to run into that video. We'll be right back.
You're watching A Talk with Armani.
Welcome back to A Talk with Armani. So I am sitting here with the energetic and charismatic poet and spoken word artist. So we have a clip actually of you performing spoken word, right? Great. So we have a clip of Royce performing spoken word and really getting into what he's saying and what he's doing and expressing his message. Take a look.
Royce, man.
My name is Royce, and my poem is titled White Boy Privilege. Dear women, I'm sorry. Dear black people, I'm sorry. Dear Asian Americans, dear Native Americans, dear immigrants who come here seeking a better life, I'm sorry. Dear everyone who isn't a middle or upper class white boy, I'm sorry. I have started life at the top of a ladder while you were born on the first rung. I say now that I would change places with you in an instant, but if given the opportunity, would I? Probably not, because to be honest, being privileged is awesome. I'm not saying that you and me on different rungs of the ladder is how I want it to stay. I'm not saying that any part of me is for a moment even liked it that way. I'm just saying that I love being privileged and I'm not ready to give that away. I love it because I can say fuck, and not one of you is attributing that to the fact that everyone with my skin color has a dirty mouth. I love it because I don't have to spend an hour every morning putting on makeup to meet other people's standards. I love it because I can worry about what kind of food is on my plate instead of whether or not there will be food on my plate. I love it because when I see a police officer, I see someone who's on my side. To be honest, I'm scared of what it would be like if I wasn't on the top rung, if the tables were turned and I didn't have my white boy privilege safety blanket to protect me. If I lived a life lit by what I lack, not what I have, if I lived a life in which when I failed, the world would say, told you so. If I lived the life that you live. When I was born, I had a success story already written for me. You were given a pen and no paper. I've always felt that that's unfair, but I've never dared to speak up because I've been too scared. Well, now I realize that there's enough blankie to be shared. Everyone should have the privileges that I have. In fact, they should be rights instead. Everyone's story should be written, so all they have to do is get it read. Enough said. No, not enough said. It is embarrassing that we still live in a world in which we judge another person's character by the size of their paycheck, the color of their skin, or the type of chromosomes they have. It is embarrassing that we tell our kids that it is not their personality, but instead those same chromosomes that get to dictate what color clothes they wear, and how short they must cut their hair. But most of all, it is embarrassing that we deny this, that we claim to live in an equal country, in an equal world. We say that women can vote. Well, guess what? They can run a country, own a company, and throw a nasty curveball as well. We just don't give them the chance to. I know it wasn't us 8th grade white boys who created this system, but we profit from it every day. We don't notice these privileges, though, because they don't come in the form of things we gain, but rather the lack of injustices that we endure. Because of my gender, I can watch any sport on TV and feel like that could be me one day. Because of my race, I can eat in a fancy restaurant without the waitstaff expecting me to steal the silverware. Thanks to my parents' salary, I go to a school that brings my dreams closer instead of pushing them away. Dear white boys, I'm not sorry. I don't care if you think the feminists are taking over the world or the Black Lives Matter movement has gotten a little too strong because that's... I get that change can be scary, but equality shouldn't be. Hey, white boys, it's time to act like a woman, to be strong and make a difference. It's time to let go of that fear. It's time to take that ladder and turn it into a bridge.
So definitely, you know what I mean? You do very good work, and I see how you're talking about getting the opinion across and just letting people know that there's all different types of things that's going on in the world. And it doesn't have to pertain to a particular person or a particular class. All these things affect all of us. Great, great job. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, and we want to follow you. We want to be part of your fan base. We want to get to know what's going on with you, see some more poems and, you know, videos that you produce. How can we do that? What is your social media?
You can find me on Instagram at Royce_the_man with 2 N's.
Okay.
And you can find me on Twitter at the Royce Man.
Okay, and what about your poems? I mean, are your poems on a website, or do you just pretty much just use social media?
Some of them are online. I have some that aren't.
Okay.
If you go to YouTube, look up my name, you should probably be able to find them.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't post as much of my own content,
Okay.
but when I'm performing around, sometimes people will post videos of my performances.
Okay, cool. All righty. Well, we'll be looking for you, Royce.
Awesome.
All right, thank you so much for coming on.
welcome.
We'll be right back.
You're watching A Talk with Armani.
Let's rise up. Let's rise up with those overlooked and undervalued by society. The black man who walks down the street on the way to his job, it's his first day as an 8th grade English teacher. The same black man who has a son, his most prized possession, who told that son that life will be hard, but anything is possible. The black man who walks down the street on the way to his job, only to pass a woman clutching her purse a little too tightly. Let's rise up with the boy who was a girl, then didn't know what he was, and is now a boy. The boy with the parents who loved their daughter, but disowned their son. Let's rise up with the Muslim woman who works for the Justice Department, only to experience injustice every time she wears a hijab. Let's rise up and lend a hand to the boy who can't, the boy who sits in a wheelchair watching the other kids play basketball, the boy who becomes the only one in his class to win an Olympic gold medal. Let's rise up with the woman who was born in the U.S., whose parents are Dominican, and whose son is all-American, so why is she repeatedly told to go back to Mexico? Let's even rise up with the poor white boy. The one who is told he is privileged but doesn't feel that way, and yes, this boy does exist. The boy who talks about the pool his family doesn't have and wears the shoes his mother can't afford. He was given everything right, so it must be his fault, right? Wrong, because as one YouTube commenter said, life can be hard if you're white, but life will never be hard because you are white. Let's rise up with a young Native American poet. She speaks wisdom, but no one listens. The poet who should be on the stage right now, the poet who instead has to hear a white boy speak for her. Let's rise up. Because once we do, that glass ceiling will be in reach, and trust me, it is breakable. Once we do, we will be able to see over any wall, no matter who pays for it. Once we do, the sky will truly be the limit. Scratch that, there will be no limit. Martin dreamed when it was time to dream. Rosa sat when it was time to sit. Barack ran when it was time to run. Now is the time to rise up together as one.
Welcome back to A Talk with Armani. So thank you once again for joining me, and thank you to the fabulously talented Royce Mann for coming and sharing his work with us, as well as inspiring us to pursue our dreams no matter how old we are. Until next time, stay safe.